Hi everyone, and welcome to the Unit 3, Part 1 lecture for EDSE 673. There are a few different video presentation components for this unit, but we'll begin here by discussing the ideas of self-assessment and self-reflection and their value for growth. This is relevant regardless of your current or desired role in practice. Talk a lot about assessing students or clients for goals and achievement, but we don't necessarily spend as much time as we could or should on self-assessment and self-reflection, so we'll be discussing that today. In addition, we'll be looking at a cake activity based on these topics, the idea of formative self-assessment, and a particular worksheet that we'll be completing as a part of this unit for self-evaluation. The main idea we'll begin with here is a quote here. Socrates says, "Know thyself." As mentioned a moment ago, we spend so much time monitoring the growth of students or of clients and determining, whether they're reaching their goals and whether we're hitting certain benchmarks. But we may not spend time really focusing on ourselves. What are we doing? How are we doing it? Is it working? We may fall into self-criticism or feeling negatively about our work and feeling frustrated, or we may fall into, thoughts that, okay, I'm following the rules, I'm doing what I need to do, everything is going fine. And it's really important to be in the middle of those two sides, considering my growth is so important and I can always continue to grow, but at the same time, I want to take a look at what's going well. So those are two really critical sides of self-reflection and self-assessment that we'll be looking into here. First, you'll recognize this model. This is this cake model here. We want to take a look at our goal, which will be in gold. For instance, regardless of your role, it's probable that your current or future goal is for student or client performance, and that often this growth will be displayed in results of an assessment. So whether this is behavioral or academic, we're looking for occurrences to be reduced or for occurrences of a positive or a replacement behavior to be increased. We're looking for a lot of different things that can be demonstrated through data or assessment, both short-term and long-term. So this is our goal here. And then in each segment of the cake, we'll have things that we can reflect upon for our own quality of service, our own provision in our own role. So for this cake assignment, you're going to want to put in some reflective ideas for each segment. And feel free to construct this either by printing it out, putting it down on paper, and then scanning it, or by typing in, and you can insert text boxes outside or whatever works for you to be able to include as much information as you feel is appropriate. For instance, we might think about our experience. How does my experience contribute to the quality of my service provision, whether that is as a teacher or as another kind of service provider or therapist? Next, what is my knowledge of the curriculum? And curriculum would be whatever interventions you're trying to put into place. What do I know? What do I need to know? So you're really reflecting here. What am I doing well? And where can I still grow? Knowledge of pedagogy. How am I approaching this instruction? What are my main ideas in my background, and what are my philosophical foundations? That's what we're really looking for here in practice. Professionalism of my colleagues. So how do my relationships with my colleagues contribute to my own performance within my role? Or what can I do to make these relationships stronger and better, more productive? Next, we're looking at our contentment in our personal lives. And while this may seem irrelevant or unrelated, it's in fact very important, because this kind of taking care of oneself or investing in, things outside of the work role, this is very important for our quality as a teacher or as a service provider. So be sure to reflect in here about what you're doing for yourself to make sure that things are going well for you, because this is an important slice of the cake. Okay, so that care for self outside of the role. And then additionally, looking into the supports that you may have in place, whether that be family, friends, or others who are there for you as you're growing and working in your role. Another important thing to reflect upon would be your perception of and your attitudes towards students or clients, whoever you may be working with. Where do you stand in these perceptions or these attitudes? How might you be able to grow? And where are you strong in this area? And then finally, we have two more categories here. One of them would be living in the present moment. So we're thinking about, how am I actively encouraging that growth in that moment? Not to reflect too much on the past or to become bogged down by what's been going on, but not to think too far into the future, really to stay present. So that's that concept of mindfulness. You want to reflect on the value of this for your practice and how you're doing it well and where you might be able to grow. And then this last category, my heroes. And by heroes, we mean role models. Who are your role models in the field? This is so important, and this may be somebody with, major publications, or somebody who is really looked up to across the field, or maybe somebody that you work with or have worked with on site. Perhaps another service provider or somebody in management or leadership, somebody that you've learned a lot from, somebody that you hope to, practice with and practice like that person as you move forward in your work. So that's another important thing to reflect upon. Who are my role models in this job? Who can I look up to continue to learn from that person? So go ahead and fill in each of these for the service provider quality cake assignment. If you take a look right here on the Unit 3 presentation, you'll see that you can download it. It's in a PowerPoint format. And again, feel free to type your answers in or fill them out on paper after printing. Got the directions right here. And then this, you'll fill in your goal. So if this is not accurate for you, feel free to change it. And then you'll give your answers for each one of these. And this is either teacher or service provider quality. So there is the template for you. Next, as a reminder, we've got a definition here. We're looking at the concept of formative assessment. And you can see from the William text on page 43, a formative assessment is an assessment that collects evidence about achievement, okay, to make decisions about next steps in instruction. And this is important regardless of role. Steps that would be better or better founded than the decisions that would have been made without that evidence. So formative assessment is ongoing for us in comparison to summative assessment, where we would assess the learning of the student or the client. This is really checking in along the way. How are we doing? What do we need to do differently? So this definition focuses on how we might do formative assessment for a student or for a client. But it's very important that we consider formative assessment in our evaluation of ourselves. Formative assessment really takes a look at our daily selves as learners and as service providers or educators. So consider, how can we assess our own work? You may receive teacher or service provider evaluations that may be annual or maybe more frequent. You may have, that would be more summative. You may have more formative assessments, which include benchmark meetings, throughout the evaluation period, or check-ins with a supervisor or evaluator. But how can we really take a look at our own work? So not just getting our assessment from the outside, but rather from within ourselves in a formative manner, and that's from day to day. So this can occur by practicing guided self-questioning. Here are some sentence starters that you can take a look at while you're reflecting. And this will be a part of our assignment. So consider, I am at my best when I face difficulty, I. When others praise my work, I. And when a student or client that I'm responsible for is perceived as failing, I. X, Y, or Z. So you'll fill in these answers, and we'll take a look at that assignment in a minute. But really take the time to think about these. This is not something you want to answer in a split second. It's very important to think about, how do I respond in these situations? Because this can give us steps for growth and help us to identify areas of strength as well. Finally, take action. This sentence starter here says, my next self-development step in my current or future role is. So after we've completed the guided self-questioning and really reflected on these topics, we want to identify our next step. So based on areas that I've recognized that I can grow as I'm reflecting on these questions, my next step will be. Keep in mind, self-reflection is the key to personal and professional growth. We have this quote, as is the garden, such is the gardener. So not only will self-reflection positively impact you and your role, but it will also impact your colleagues, your leadership, your setting, and of course your clients or your students. Very important. Take a look at the worksheet, which you'll see is also included here with the Unit 3 Presentation 1 link. We have Formative Self-Evaluation Assignment. You'll fill this out and submit it via Canvas. So we've got a worksheet here again. You may print, write, and scan, or you may type in your answers. And this includes different boxes with the questions that we just looked over. So you want to provide an answer to each of these and really, create some bulk in that answer. You want to really think about it and reflect on how does this occur in my practice? And these are all related to your work. Finally, you'll see here at the bottom, my next step in my current or future role. And then last, we have a 1-paragraph statement assignment. So you'll capture the essence of your response, really pulling all of these ideas together. What comes to mind as you reflect on the prompts? So this is a chance for you to provide about 1 paragraph of writing after you've filled in the boxes. Where am I going to go from here? And where did I get these ideas? How did I come to these conclusions? It's very important to complete these reflections, both for yourself now and ongoing. As we said with your daily selves, you'll want to complete ongoing reflection. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video presentation.